Okay, begin.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Today we'll be doing a presentation on complex organizations. So these are some of the contents that we will be covering in the first half of the presentation. So first off, corporate culture. Now, a culture is a group of beliefs, values, artifacts, and behaviors shared by a group of people. And if you add corporate into that, it's basically the culture of an organization or corporation. So it's a set of beliefs, values, understandings, and norms shared by members of an organization. Culture is an assumption of how things are done in an organization and is taught to new members as the correct way to act and feel. There are three levels of corporate culture. You have artifacts on the first level, so you have symbols, slogans, heroes, and stories. Uh, Symbol is something that holds meaning for those in the organization. A story is a narrative that is repeatedly told in an organization. And a hero is a representation of the values of the organization. So, for example, Mark Zuckerberg is a hero of Facebook. People within the organization would look up to him. At the next level, there are express values and philosophies. Deeply embedded assumptions make up the deepest level. These assumptions guide the actions and thoughts in an organization. And of course, they are not, you're not able to see them, so they're not physical, but you could see them in the way that people behave. So their behaviors and values, their beliefs and values will affect their behavior. Goldman and Deal offered another way to look at organizations. Four frames: the structural frame, human resource frame, political frame, and symbolic frame. The structural frame focuses on formal processes like organizational charts, roles, and job descriptions. The human resource frame emphasizes the people in the organization. The political frame operates from the perspective that there will always be scarcity of resources. And the symbolic frame focuses on the ceremonies, stories, and heroes that help define the organization and reflect its values. Paying attention to these frames and how they operate can provide clues to why some parts may be doing well while other aspects are struggling. So, in essence, you could just look at culture as being the reason that people behave why they behave. It's just like normal culture, it affects the way that we behave. Goethe adds to our understanding of cultures and organizations through his study of different societies. He posits that people are different in five broad dimensions: the power distance index, masculinity, uncertainty avoidance, long term orientation, and individualism. Masculinity refers to the degree to which traditionally male values are embraced. So, masculine societies prefer achievement, assertiveness, and material reward for success, while feminine societies prefer cooperation, caring for the weak, and quality of life. Individualism is how much individual work is favored over collective action. Uncertainty avoidance is the degree to which uncertainty is avoided, and the degree to which ambiguity and uncertainty are tolerated. Long term orientation refers to the degree to which people look towards the future or plan for the future. So, Dylan Kennedy described various characters within the organization. Storytellers interpret what's going on in the organization. What they say or may not say may not be the truth, may or may not be the truth because it reflects their perception of what is happening. Priests see themselves as guarding the values of the organization's culture. Whisperers work behind the scenes and have power because of their close connections to the leaders of the organization. Gossips can provide detailed information about what is currently happening within the organization. Sometimes the facts they provide are correct, sometimes they are not. Spies are loyal to leaders of the organization and provide information to them about what is happening. Finally, cabals are groups of two or more people whose main purpose is joining together to advance themselves within the organization. Their alliance is often kept secret. So we can see these different ways of looking at culture. Of course, you have the three levels of culture. You have the different frames and you have the different characters within the organization. All of these perspectives are used to describe culture, and it's just a different way of looking at it. So, I'll give you an example so that you hopefully understand exactly how important corporate culture is. So, Google has an organizational culture for innovation, especially technological innovation. The company emphasizes the importance of openness among employees as a way of promoting an innovative mindset suited to the technological nature of the business. The company culture leads to innovation that applies to Google's approaches in competing in various industries. For example, the culture helps the company innovate its technological assets and the services it provides to customers in the online advertising industry. The following characteristics define Google's corporate culture. So you have openness, innovation, especially technological information, smartness with excellence, hands-on approach, and small company family report. So openness. This cultural characteristic refers to open-mindedness and information sharing among Google's employees. The company's objectives in promoting openness through its organizational culture is to encourage the dissemination of valuable knowledge that can support further technological innovation. For example, the corporate culture motivates individual employees to share new knowledge and work-related learning about technological solutions to consumers' needs identified in the market. In relation, Google's operation management strategy supports this cultural trait through workplace layouts that facilitate knowledge sharing and human resource enhancement. So, in summary, if their culture allows people to give their opinion, then it could work out really well for them in terms of the ideas that they are able to get. Because the more people that you have adding ideas, the more likely that you will, get more good ideas and you're able to improve your business. So they really encourage openness, and you could see it in the way that they operate and they treat their employees. So we have a quote here. Organizational culture is a living creature, and employees are the ones who feed it. So culture is not just something that the management say has to happen. It's something that is built by the employees, and of course, management could affect the corporate culture, but the ones who really perpetuated are the employees because, um, as I mentioned before, new employees are taught the corporate culture. So if if they have if the old employees have a certain belief, this is how we do things here. So for example, we take shortcuts, right? We don't do it this way, that's too much work, we do it this way. They will teach the new employee, and that employee wouldn't want to like be the odd one out. So he or she will just do things the way that they are supposed to be done, well, according to the other employees. So the management may not be aware of all the values and beliefs of the organization, because a lot of that is deeply embedded values, and they may not be aware of the values and the beliefs um, of their employees. But as Google does, they encourage different cultural values, and it could really take root. So setting. It will also provide a yardstick for the organization's effectiveness. An organization is effective if it moves towards its mission well. So effectiveness means your ability to achieve your mission and your goals. If you're not being effective, that means you're not achieving your goals and um, you're not following your mission. The vision is what the organization aspires to be in the future. So it's an ideal image. It should be shared by members of the organization in order to spark motivation. So the mission is the reason for its existence, and the vision is where it wants to be. Core values are the key tenets of the organization. They are a small number of guiding principles that should not be compromised for financial gain. Core values determine how the organization treats its treats itself and its stakeholders. So, Apple's mission is to bring the best user experiences customers through innovative hardware, software, and services. McDonald's mission is to make delicious, feel-good moments easy for everyone. And Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So, does anyone know a company's mission? It could even be Costat. Is anybody aware of a company's mission or vision? So, no, well, we know, I think Sir went through Costat's mission a couple of weeks ago, so we would be aware of that. But we have all these different missions, and they are just simple statements. It's not a whole paragraph, it's nothing too long, but it's just a purpose statement. Google's vision statement is to provide access to the world's information in one click. And its core values include fast is better than slow, focus on the user and all else will follow, it's better to do one thing really, really well. So you all have examples of mission statements, vision statements, and core values. Okay, so if an organization has a specific mission, vision or values, they will make decisions and follow opportunities that align with these values as well as their mission. So, for example, Google will not, for example, branch out into a chain of hotels. It will go against their mission, vision, and values. These things help to keep the company focused. So, your mission, your vision, and your core values help to keep your company focused. If a company goes after every opportunity that comes up, they will find it very difficult or impossible to achieve their goals. So it's like you're trying to chase a bunch of rabbits at the same time. If every single opportunity that come up, you want to make this new product and make this next product and follow this opportunity, and it not aligning with your mission, then you'll be doing you wouldn't be headed towards your mission. So now we'll move on to the importance of mission, vision, and core values. So these things legitimize the organization. They demonstrate thoughtful leadership, reputation, and inspiration to potential investors, employees, or donors. They guide the actions of the organization. So the vision and mission are the basis of organizational goals. So if your mission is to do a specific thing, then your goals will have to line up with that, right? They keep the organization on target. So what opportunities are relevant? That's very important. What is relevant? So not every opportunity will be relevant. It might be a good opportunity to make some money, but it may not be relevant to your mission. Vision, mission, and core values determine in what way an organization should behave. So if you are, I don't know, if you are environmentally friendly, then you will not act in a certain way. You will not be using a lot of plastic, because if you do, then you're not aligning with your core values, and that could cause a kind of dissonance, because people hear and you say one thing, but then you're doing the next thing, and that's not very good for your brand. And you need to ensure that you're always on brand, so as not to confuse people, because a lot of times people go with organizations or they support organizations that align with their values. But if you say that you align with their values but you really don't, then they probably wouldn't support you. And last but not least, they build the organization's brand. Having strong values and never compromising on them helps to solidify an organization's brand. Is the organization always environmentally friendly? Does it always have the best customer service in the industry? So, what exactly is your brand? So, now moving on to leadership. We will have covered this a couple of weeks ago with Sue. Um, Remember that leadership is a relational and ethical process that includes individuals working together to achieve positive change. It is important because it helps the organization meet a stated purpose. It also helps the organization to last in the long run. The relational leadership model is a good framework that leaders may use to achieve a firm's objective. By being inclusive, ethical, empowering, purposeful, and process oriented, leaders and members can act together to achieve the organization's purpose as well as positive change. So, just a recap, remember that being empowering means making others feel like they have the right to be involved. Being inclusive means understanding, appreciating, and actively engaging diversity in opinions, methods, styles, and facets of individuality. Being purposeful means having a commitment to a goal or activity. It is the ability to collaborate and to find common ground with others to facilitate positive change. Being ethical means conforming to social rules that govern and limit conduct. Moral and ethical leadership is driven by knowing what is good and what is virtuous. Process refers to how the organization or group goes about being a group, remaining a group, and accomplishing one's group purpose. Teams should be thoughtful and intentional of their process. Also remember the knowing, being, doing. So knowing means possessing sufficient knowledge for the job. Leaders need to show that they are competent. Being means knowing what values and attributes define you as a leader, and doing just means active. So now moving on to virtuality. Charles Handy defines virtual organizations as organizations that do not need to have all the people or sometimes any of the people in one place in order to deliver their service. According to Zyger, the more the organization's geography, time, or culture is separated, the more virtual it is. Leadership within these virtual organizations is about developing relationships. Kessler identifies a number of leadership attributes for success. Among other traits, successful leaders revel in complexity, ambiguity, and uncertainty, and are incredibly curious and insatiable lifelong learners. Courageous, due to deeply held values and unwavering beliefs, able to build and retain talent. Zakaran Beda notes a number of E-team leader rules that lead to E-team effectiveness, including enhancing cohesion, sharing information and ideas, moderating team conflicts, facilitating team coordination and integration. Now moving on to organizational networks. Networks are the web of relationships formed by groups of people in order to get things done. These groups may be participants inside or outside of the organization, but they must work together and share a common goal. Networks are important because they provide the chance to improve connectivity among a wide range of people. The network cooperates and may share resources. They are also beneficial because they allow for mutual benefits. Each party can benefit from the expertise and knowledge or resources of other parties. So now just for a little quiz, right? So according to Good, people are different in five broad dimensions. What are two of those dimensions? So I would have reviewed and defined those. So what anybody remembers one of those dimensions? So is the yeah.
Just I think it would have been one of them would have been a storyteller.
Okay, all right, good. That's from that section. Um I was referring to the dimensions, so like
Oh,
masculinity,
okay.
um You remember from that area, but that's good that you remembered from the different roles in your organization. You remember any of the dimensions. So one
No.
of them is masculinity. You have long-term orientation. You have individualism. So you have five. There's five broad dimensions. Um, then according to Zyger, this one is kind of simple. The more the organization's geography, time, or culture is separated, the more something it is. Anybody knows the answer is one word.
Divided.
Good attempt. So the more is similar, right? So it if you have your organization like the geography is divided and all these things, it makes the organization more virtual. So is yeah. And in terms of leadership, name two values of relational leadership. So it have five, I believe five. We will have gone through some of them with Sir. But what are two values of relational leadership? So you need to be empowering, inclusive, purposeful, process and process oriented, and you need to be ethical. Um, First, sir, what is a network? So we would have seen this before, right? So they are basically people who are sharing resources, right? So it's a group of people sharing resources, expertise, and knowledge. And what is a mission statement? This one is like really simple. What is an organization's mission?
What they exist for.
Exactly, right? So if you know the answer to these questions, you have a pretty good idea of what we talked about before. So for culture, um, basically is just the way that things are done in an organization. Okay, virtuality is the more the organization's geography, time, and culture is separated, right? So we have a summary slide. I'll go through that actually. So culture is an assumption of how things are done in the organization. Leadership is important because it helps the organization meet a stated purpose. It also helps the organization to last in the long run. Networks are the web of relationships formed by groups of people in order to get things done. They improve connectivity among a wide range of people. Virtual organizations are those whose geography, time, and culture are separated. Mission. Why does the organization exist? Vision. What do we want to be? The vision, mission, and core values guide organizational behavior. An organization that values being sustainable should not pollute the environment. So just remember, your actions and your vision, mission, and values have to align, right? So that's it for this half of the presentation. I hope the summary helped, um, so that you'll remember the most important things from the presentation. So now we'll be moving on to the next half of the presentation.
Hi, good day everyone. So on this second half of the presentation, we will be discussing the groups and organizations, organization as complex structures, organizational structures, and the life cycles of organizations. Next slide, please. So a group can be defined as a number of people who have regular contact and frequent interaction, mutual influence, a shared feeling of belonging, and who collaborate in order to accomplish a common set of goals. There are two types of groups. Does anyone know the two types of groups? No? Okay, so two types of groups are informal and formal groups. An informal group is one that's not organizationally determined or influenced and usually formed by the members themselves in response to the need for social contact. So there are three types of informal groups which can be divided into the following categories. There's a friendship group, which is an association of people who like each other and enjoy spending time together. Interest group is a group of individuals who may belong to the same organization, which could be command group or a task group, but their interest in a particular issue binds them together. Reference group is a special type of informal group that people use to evaluate themselves. A reference group may not be a group that meets regularly, it can be an imaginary group. And then we have a formal group. Formal groups are groups that are established by an organization for the purpose of achieving its goals. So there's the command group, which is made up of a supervisor, the manager, and subordinates who report directly to the supervisor. The task group, which is a group of individuals who work together to accomplish a common goal. Task groups can, however, cross the command lines. Project group, in the same way, are formed to complete a specific project. The project groups normally last for the duration of a project. So, for example, let's say a group of students coming together to do a presentation which is due by next week. So, they will stick together to get the presentation done, and after that, the group will diverge. Committees are usually formed outside the typical command group structure. These committees may be relatively short-lived or quite long-lived. Organizations are large groups of people who interact in a continuous manner within a complex structure to achieve specific goals. Organizations are interactive entities. Next slide, please. Organization as complex structure. So organizations are also systems. A system is defined as an environment in which each interaction between members results in outcomes that affect each individual as well as subsequent interaction and outcomes. So a complex organization is one that compromises a larger organizational structure or a greater number of resources in any division, project, or team. Complexity can be caused by multiple stakeholders, multiple organizational structures, or multiple steps in the process. Next slide, you would see a depiction of what a complex organizational structure looks like. So there are multiple units within the company and there are different levels of members. Next slide, please. So organizational structure. What is an organizational structure? An organizational structure is a system that outlines how certain activities are directed in order to achieve goals of an organization most efficiently and effectively. These activities may include rules, roles, and responsibilities. Organization structure determines how information flows between levels within the company that allows them to remain efficient and focused. Organization structures determines how information flows between levels within the company. It allows them to remain efficient and focused. So this structure provides a visual representation of how a company is shaped and is usually represented in some sort of chart or diagram like a pyramid, with the most powerful members sitting at the top and those with the least common of power sitting at the bottom. So there are 6 types of organizational structure, which includes the functional structure, also known as a bureaucratic organizational structure that defines a corporation according to the specialization of its staff. A bureaucratic organizational structure is used when corporations segregate departments such as marketing, sales, and operations. Our second form of organizational structure is a divisional or multi-divisional structure, which are typical in large corporations with numerous business units. A corporation that adopts a strategy structures its leadership team based on the products, or subsidiaries it operates on. This method is known as the divisional or the multi-divisional M-form structure. Then we have team-based or teamwork organizations. Like divisional or functional structures, segregate into close-knit teams of people that fulfill certain goals and function, but each team is a unit that includes both leaders and workers. Flatarchy, also referred to as horizontal structure, is a modern concept employed by several entrepreneurs. As the name implies, it flattens the structure and obtain of command and provides its employees with significant autonomy. Companies that employ the structure have a rapid implementation rate. Then we have the matrix structure. It is a hybrid of 2 or more organizational work frames. It is a method of organizing your firm so that reporting relationships are put up as a grid of matrix rather than in the visual hierarchy, right? Employees in the structure typically have dual reporting ties, often to their functional manager as well as the project manager. So, for example, before reporting to the project manager, you may have to report to the functional manager. And then we have the circular structure, which is a hierarchical in nature, but they are called circular because they position higher level employees and managers in the heart of the company with concentric rings expanding outward to encompass lower level employees and staff. Next slide, please. So we have the importance of organizational structure. Organizational structure is important because it is effective for communication, decision making, and assigning tasks. We can see organizational structure all around us. Some places that have organizational structures are schools, businesses, hospitals, military forces, and governments. So here we have a picture or diagram of how the military force structure would be, and it is usually used in schools. There are simple structures like a functional structure would be used for a school. Next slide, please. So we have the life cycles of organizations. A life cycle is a series of events that begins with the birth of a new product and continues through its maturation, critical mass, and decline. The most common stages in a product's life cycle are product development. Product development is a stage that comprises market research, product design, concept development, and product or service testing. It is often funded by funds from this initial startup, and if income is low and development costs are high, the company may experience a time of low cash flow. Then we have market introduction. This marketing phase involves the product's initial release, which is frequently accompanied by extensive advertising. At this point, the corporation may be investing with the aim of purchasing money in the future. This phase is frequently funded by the early investors, firm owners, or suppliers. Growth. This is the stage which sales begin to accelerate as evidenced by an increase in sales year over year. Gross margins should continuously drop as production levels rise, making the product less profitable per unit. Competition is likely to expand and cash flow may come from profits, bank loans, and partnerships. Then we have maturity of the product. A product will reach a peak of its demand cycle during the stage of development. Additional marketing will have little to no influence on growing demand, and the money flow may come from larger profits. We have now decline or stability, which occurs after a product has reached or passed its peak demand. At this stage, demand will either remain constant or gradually fall as a fresh product replaces it. Furthermore, profits may fall or an owner may consider selling the business. Growth can still occur when a product reaches maturity, but a more mature firm with other older products may be more likely to distribute dividends than firms in the other phases. Next slide, please. So here we have a summary on our second part of the presentation. So a group is a small number of people with mutual interests who collaborate to accomplish a common set of goals. Organizations are large groups of people that interact in a continuous manner to achieve a specific goal. So the difference is that a group is a smaller number towards a common set of goals, and the organization is a larger group. An organizational structure is a system designed to outline goals of the company effectively, and it determines the flow of communication between different levels of its members. There are six types of organizational structure, which are functional, divisional or multidivisional, team-based, flatarchy, matrix, and circular structures. A life cycle is a series of events that begins with the birth of a new product and continues to its maturity, critical mass, and decline. The most common stages in the product's life cycles are product development, market introduction, growth, maturity, and decline stability. Next
So
slide,
here
please.
are our references. And to just go through this PowerPoint, I know it's a lot, and sometimes you could feel like you're listening to a long, long presentation. But just look at the summary, because the summary is the most important parts, the most important points of our presentation, and you could just start from the summary so you could understand it. And if you want, you could look at the example of Google to understand corporate culture, because it's really a great example, and you could see how the culture influences what they do. So I hope you all learned something, at least in our presentation, and thank you.